Okay, so you know how we're always talking about knowledge is power?
Yeah.
Well, today's deep dive is about power,
Okay.
and its sometimes shocking consequences.
Right.
We're diving into the fatal shooting of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
And trust me, it's a lot more complex than just the headline.
Definitely.
We've got excerpts from a Reddit thread discussing a news article about what happened,
Uh-huh.
a live CNN update page,
Oh, wow. So right in the moment.
and a Reuters article covering the story.
Okay, great. A good mix of sources.
Buckle up,
Yeah.
because we're going to uncover the facts, explore the reactions, and see what this event reveals about healthcare power dynamics and public sentiment.
Big picture stuff.
This isn't just about one CEO.
Yeah.
It's about a system, a nation,
Yeah.
and a growing tension.
A lot to unpack there.
Before we even dive into the reactions, though,
Okay.
let's establish some core facts from these sources.
Good place to start.
So who was Brian Thompson?
Well, he was CEO of UnitedHealthcare, the largest U.S. health insurer.
Wow.
He'd worked there since 2004.
So a long time.
Yeah.
And where and when was he shot?
Outside the New York Hilton,
Okay.
6:40 a.m., December 4th, 2024.
So early in the morning.
Very.
What were the circumstances?
He was walking to an investor conference.
Okay.
Shot from behind.
Oh, wow.
Suspect fled the scene.
And what are authorities saying at this point?
They're calling it a targeted attack.
So not random.
No, definitely not.
Suspect is still at large.
As far as we know, yeah.
Last seen in Central Park.
Interesting.
Okay, so that sets the scene.
Yeah.
But where it gets really interesting is the public reaction.
Okay.
Specifically, we're looking at this Reddit thread, and it's fascinating.
Oh, I bet.
The overall reaction is overwhelmingly unsympathetic.
Wow.
There's a lot of dark humor, comments like, his last words were, cancel the ambulance, call an Uber. But beyond the jokes, there's this deep well of resentment towards these health insurance companies and the whole healthcare system.
I mean, I can see why.
What's striking is how many personal stories are being shared.
Yeah.
People were recounting denied claims, battling bureaucracy, facing crazy costs.
I'm sure everyone has a story.
And those aren't just abstract complaints. These are lived experiences that have clearly left a mark.
Definitely.
And in those stories, we start to see the why.
The why.
Yeah, why this event, tragic as it is, has resonated with so many people.
Right.
There's this story about a parent whose 4-year-old daughter was hospitalized.
Oh, gosh.
A life-saving stay, they said.
Okay.
Only to get a denial letter from UnitedHealthcare
Really?
addressed to the 4-year-old.
Oh, my God. That's awful.
It speaks to this profound sense of disconnect.
Yeah.
This idea that patients, even young children, are just numbers cases.
Reduced to data points.
Stripped of their humanity.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing.
It's no wonder people feel powerless.
And angry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that powerlessness fuels the anger. We see people struggling to get meds for chronic illnesses like MS.
Right.
Arguing with insurers to get insulin approved.
Essential things.
Life-sustaining treatments.
Yeah.
Caught up in a system that often feels more focused on profit than well-being.
More about the bottom line than the patient.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
And that brings us to a crucial point.
Okay.
The profit-driven nature of the American healthcare system.
Huge topic.
Unlike many other developed countries where, healthcare is seen as a right.
Yeah, basic human right.
We have this system where private insurance plays this dominant role, and profit often feels at odds with patient needs.
Definitely.
That's something that's coming up over and over on Reddit.
Yeah.
This idea that the CEO, this figurehead of a massive insurance company,
Right.
is a symbol of a broken system.
A symbol of the problem.
One that benefits a select few at the expense of so many.
Exactly.
And it's not just about healthcare costs either.
Yeah.
The Reddit thread also shows this anxiety about growing wealth inequality.
Oh, yeah.
About a system where the elites are detached from everyday struggles.
Scared of touch.
We even see comments comparing it to historical examples of unrest.
Like what?
Like the French Revolution.
Wow.
Driven by similar disparities in wealth and power.
That's a scary thought.
It's a reminder that these issues aren't new.
No.
And they have the potential to lead to serious societal upheaval.
Yeah, that's a potent mix.
Definitely.
Wow.
So we've got this foundation of facts, but layered on top of that is this raw emotion.
Yeah.
This anger, this resentment, and even some disturbing hints of justification for violence.
I mean, I can see where that's coming from, but yeah, disturbing.
So how do we make sense of all of this?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's what we're going to try to do as we continue this deep dive.
All right, I'm ready.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like all these anxieties are bubbling over.
And it's not just talk either. We see people saying they understand.
Reshooting. Yeah, even justifying it.
Not condoning it, obviously.
Of course not.
But relating to that desperation, that feeling of being pushed too far.
It's chilling to see comments like, I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often.
That's scary.
It really is.
It speaks to this hopelessness, you
Yeah.
know, this belief that the system is so rigged that violence is inevitable.
Right.
But maybe we should take a step back here.
Okay.
And think about the whole picture.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously huge anger at insurance companies and the system as a whole.
Right.
But to just call it class warfare, I don't know.
It feels too simple.
Yeah, it oversimplifies things.
It's easy to get caught up in the raw emotion.
Especially on Reddit.
Exactly.
This isn't black and white.
No, it's not.
There are these big systemic issues, but then you also have personal choices, individual circumstances, all these other factors. It's complicated.
And speaking of complicated, we haven't really talked about Brian Thompson himself.
The CEO.
Yeah, the Reuters article paints this picture of a guy who worked his way up at UnitedHealthcare.
Okay.
Started in 2004.
So he was there a while.
Yeah. Some colleagues describe him as thoughtful, even respectable.
So it's not so simple.
No.
I mean, even in these big corporations, there are individuals making decisions,
Right.
navigating this complex system.
His story, his rise through the ranks, maybe it can shed some light on how this industry works.
Yeah, the pressures, the priorities that shape their actions.
It also adds another layer of tragedy to this story.
How so?
I mean, a man is dead.
Right.
Regardless of his role, his position.
Yeah.
We can't just gloss over that.
It's a human tragedy.
It is.
But it's also brought these crucial issues to the forefront.
Absolutely.
Forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our healthcare system.
And the deep anxieties it creates.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here?
That's the big question.
What are the consequences of this event?
Yeah, will it lead to change or will it just fade away?
The Reddit thread has a mix of predictions.
Oh, yeah.
Some see it as a wake-up call,
Okay.
a moment that could push for reform.
That'd be good.
Others are more cynical.
What do they think?
They think the powerful will just protect themselves.
Nothing will change.
There's definitely some resignation in those comments,
Yeah.
a feeling that nothing will really change.
But there's also hope, right?
Some flickers
That this could be the spark for a movement.
for real systemic change.
It's hard to be optimistic.
It is.
But change doesn't happen overnight.
No, it's a process.
And it takes effort, dialogue, and a willingness to confront these complex issues.
With nuance and compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of complex issues, you mentioned the unique nature of the American healthcare system.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
For those of us who aren't experts?
So in many developed countries, healthcare is seen as a fundamental right.
Okay.
And it's provided through a single-payer system.
Okay.
Usually funded through taxes.
So everyone has access.
Regardless of income or job.
That's very different from the U.S.
Yeah, in the U.S. we have this private insurance model.
Right.
Access is tied to employment and affordability.
So healthcare is treated more like a commodity.
Exactly, something you buy, not a right.
And that creates a system where profit and patient needs clash.
Often. Yeah.
Insurance companies need to be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So they're incentivized to deny claims limit coverage and negotiate lower rates with providers.
All of which leads to those stories we're seeing on Reddit.
People struggling to afford meds, facing paperwork, battling to get the care they need.
It's a mess.
It's also worth noting that the U.S. spends way more on healthcare than any other developed country.
We do.
Yeah, per capita.
Wow, and yet we lag behind in outcomes.
Exactly.
That suggests that our financing and delivery is not only inefficient,
but failing to meet the needs of so many Americans.
Exactly.
It's a tough reality.
It is.
So what are the potential avenues for change?
Well, there are a lot of proposals out there.
Like what?
Some advocate for a single-payer system, like Canada or the UK. Others want to expand Medicare or Medicaid. Then there are market-based solutions.
To increase competition and transparency.
Exactly.
Sounds complicated.
It is. There are no easy answers.
And finding solutions that are both effective and politically viable.
That's the challenge.
It's going to take a lot of work.
It will, involving stakeholders from all sides.
Healthcare providers, patients, the insurance industry.
Everyone needs to be at the table.
So it's not about pointing fingers.
No.
It's about acknowledging the complexity.
And working together to find solutions,
Sure.
starting with informed dialogue.
Understanding the nuances.
And engaging in respectful debate even when we disagree.
Okay, so we've talked about the profit-driven nature of U.S. healthcare,
Right.
the potential for a single-payer model. But there's another element I think we should discuss.
Oh.
The Change Healthcare cyber attack.
Right, earlier this year.
A subsidiary of UnitedHealth Group.
Yeah.
Millions of Americans' personal health information was compromised.
A huge breach.
What were the implications of that?
Well, it caused a lot of disruption.
To providers, insurers, patients?
It highlighted the vulnerability of this sensitive data.
In a digital world.
Exactly. Imagine the anxiety.
People's most personal information in the hands of criminals.
It was a wake-up call for the industry?
For cybersecurity.
Yeah, to reevaluate security protocols and invest in safeguards.
So on top of everything else,
You have this added layer of vulnerability.
a sense that even our most sensitive information isn't safe.
It feeds into that distrust we're seeing.
It's like one blow after another.
Struggling to afford care.
Battling denials.
Worrying about data breaches.
And then you see this CEO gunned down.
A symbol of the system that's causing so much grief.
No wonder people are angry and hopeless.
It's understandable.
They're looking for answers, someone to blame.
But finding solutions requires a more nuanced approach.
Addressing the systemic issues while recognizing the individual anxieties.
Exactly.
And those individual stories really capture the frustration. One commenter said, and I'm quoting here,
Okay.
"The concept of a for-profit health insurance company is just disgusting. I don't care if these companies go under. I don't care if the big execs or stockholders lose out. They shouldn't be getting rich off of dying and sick people anyway."
Wow. That's strong.
It speaks to a fundamental question.
About the role of healthcare.
Yeah, should it be a commodity or a right? I mean, it really comes down to values, doesn't it?
It does. How we view healthcare, its role in society.
Who benefits from it?
And this event, tragic as it is, brings that debate right back to the forefront.
It's forcing us to ask those tough questions.
To look at the system we have and what we want for the future.
And it's not just theoretical, is it?
No, not at all. These aren't abstract concepts.
These are real consequences for millions of Americans.
Struggling to get affordable care.
And these issues don't exist in a vacuum.
Right. They're tied to other challenges.
Like what?
Income inequality, lack of education, systemic racism.
All contributing to health disparities.
And then making these problems even worse.
So it's all connected.
Exactly like a web. Pulling one thread affects everything.
And finding solutions requires a much broader approach.
One that gets to the root of the problem.
Not just treating the symptoms.
Right. We need to look deeper.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have the facts, the reactions, the complexities of the healthcare system.
Societal anxieties, the catch-ins, the Change Healthcare attack.
A lot to think about.
What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway?
I think it's that this event isn't isolated.
It's part of a bigger pattern.
Exactly. It's a symptom of something much deeper.
A reflection of those growing tensions.
In American society.
Whether it's healthcare, wealth inequality, or trust in institutions.
There's this feeling that the system is failing.
Failing to meet people's needs.
And that feeling of being left behind.
That's what's driving the anger, the despair.
Even the justification of violence.
Until we address those underlying issues.
Create a more equitable system.
More responsive.
We risk seeing more events like this.
More expressions of rage and frustration.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought.
It is. And it makes finding solutions all the more urgent.
We can't just ignore this.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
What do you think this event signifies?
That's a tough one.
Is it a wake-up call?
Yeah.
A sign of more unrest to come? Or just a tragic anomaly?
A lot to ponder.
We'd love to hear your thoughts as you process this complex and impactful event.
Thanks for guiding us through it.
Of course, until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.